This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom Gill. We start with an update on the group of 24 Jamaican students desperately seeking to exit war-torn Ukraine. Foreign Affairs Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith reported this morning that all students are now on their way to Poland after the planned bus ride was disrupted. The Foreign Affairs Minister is assuring the country that everything is being done to secure their safe return to Jamaica.
All 24 are now on the bus on their way to Krakow, where accommodations will be waiting for them. Our charge is there. Our friends of Jamaica have been of the greatest assistance, and they've had something warm, and they are in a comfortable bus on their way.
Following last week's invasion of Ukraine by Russian forces, which has already resulted in thousands of casualties, Mrs. Johnson-Smith is also calling on Jamaicans still present in Ukraine, as well as those living in Russia, to leave where possible amid escalating tensions between the two countries. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is on the agenda for the 33rd intersessional meeting of heads of government of the Caribbean community, CARICOM, slated to begin on Tuesday in Belize. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is due to lead Jamaica's delegation to the CARICOM meeting, which is due to discuss the effects of the invasion that has already triggered fuel price hikes. Jamaica has joined with fellow CARICOM states and other international countries in condemning the recent military strike against Ukraine. Regarding sanctions which have been imposed on a number of Russian oligarchs and companies by the United States, the European Union and the United Kingdom, Jamaica says it will be guided by the decisions taken by the United Nations Security Council and the General Assembly. Government is seeking to encourage the development of new varieties of cannabis under the New Plant Varieties Rights of Breeders Bill being developed by the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Portfolio Minister Senator Auburn Hill says following the decriminalization of cannabis in Jamaica and other jurisdictions, there is urgent need for a legal framework that incentivizes the development of new varieties of the plant. He was speaking during the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office JIPO webinar on plant variety protection, PVP, and the cannabis industry.
Private plant breeders and researchers in Jamaica will be able to exploit the relatively low technological barrier needed to qualify for plant breeders' rights. Over time, as new cannabis varieties stabilize and growers increasingly move away from cloning and more into breeding new varieties, the PVP system will be pivotal for the protection of seed-propagated cultivars.
Senator Hill also thanked JIPO and the International Union for the Protection of New Varieties of Plants, UPOV's Secretariat and Council, for their commitment and support to Jamaica in providing technical assistance.
We look forward to continued cooperation and support from UPOV in the Ministry's implementation of the new law and wish to assure JIPO, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and UPOV of the continued commitment of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce in this very important developmental initiative. And many thanks to JIPO.
A recent study was done on the voting behaviors of Jamaicans, looking at what factors drive people to participate in the electoral process. These findings were shared by local political commentator and assistant lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Mona Damon Gordon. He says globally, the age group 65 to 74 records the highest level of voter turnout, but the 18 to 24 records the lowest.
We find that among the 65 to 74 age group, those persons are more conservative. They believe in customs and tradition, and therefore they see the act of voting as a form of civil duty. Therefore, they don't even deliberate whether or not why they vote. They just see it as an act of duty, and they're just simply executing their duty. So the older voters are more conservative. They tend to stick to tradition and custom, and they see voting as a civic duty, and they do it out of a sense of obligation, out of a sense of duty. Younger persons, on the other hand, they are more deliberative, they are more progressive, and therefore they adopt more pragmatic attitude towards voting. They're not ideological, they're not philosophical about voting necessarily.
When pressed for the reasons why voter apathy is so strong within young people, Mr. Gordon explained that some young people seem to have lost faith in the political parties, and there are key factors that they're looking for to move them to the polls.
Young persons, for the most part, are more concerned about deliverables. They're more concerned about tangible improvements and changes in the quality of their lives. And they're less inclined to accept promises and even education. They're more inclined, for the most part, to see results and act after the results rather than before. And it is a product of the kind of political system within which they operate, because they're fully aware of the fact that limited social economic transformation has taken place in the Jamaican society.
Also speaking during PBCJ's News and Current Affairs show, PBCJ Presents, social and political commentator Nadine Spence placed the blame on the process and the perceived feeling that it is a middle-aged person's sport. She highlighted more must be done by the political parties.
One of the things we have to remember about a democracy is that it is the political party that has the responsibility to bring new people into politics. And our political parties are not doing a very good job of attracting new membership and getting people to understand how they participate in the politics. So I think globally political parties have failed in that. I think their leadership isn't representative of most of the population, and so I don't think they seek to ensure that their offering is such that people will want to come out and vote. And again, you talk about civics. There is not the electoral process doesn't teach, it is not taught, and it doesn't then find ways to get people to understand how our politics works. So young people are not very familiar with what are the possibilities in the politics, where they can add their voice, how they can become active citizens, and the ways in which their particular identities can be reflected in the institution.
Time now for a look at the daily market updates and news on the local oil prices with the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
The Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, reported that the foreign exchange rate depreciation has slowed significantly as of February 16, 2022. In a digital quarterly media briefing, BOJ's governor, Richard Biles, says this reflects actions taken by the bank in response to the higher than targeted inflation rate ranging between 4 and 6%.
As at the 16th of February 2022, the exchange rate was 157.42 to $1, represented an annual point-to-point depreciation of 4%. This is a slower pace of depreciation than what occurred over the same period of last year. Moreover, since the beginning of 2022, the exchange rate has depreciated by 1.5%, significantly slower than the 6.1% for the similar period in 2021.
Mr. Biles also reported that up to February 3, 2022, daily purchases of US dollar by authorized dealers and cambios saw a 12% growth when compared to the previous year.
The bank's actions have ensured that foreign currency flows continue to be healthy and that businesses and individuals in Jamaica who require foreign exchange have been able to access it. For the calendar year to the 3rd of February 2022, the daily purchases of US dollars by authorized dealers and cambios averaged approximately 37.2 million, 12% higher than the average of 33.3 million recorded over the same period last year.
Mr. Bowles stated that Jamaica's gross international reserves was adequately equivalent to 140% at a total of $4.3 billion US dollars. In foreign exchange trading for Friday, February 25, the US dollar sold for an average $155.86. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $122.47. The pound sterling traded for $211.99, and the euro sold for an average of $175.14. In Friday's trading session, the following reflect the movement of the JSE indices. The JSE index advanced by 358 points to close at over 390,000 units. The junior market index declined by 2 points to close at over 3,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 317 points to close at over 400,000 units, and the all Jamaican composite index declined by 104 points to close at over 443,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 102 stocks, of which 48 advanced, 45 declined, and 9 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, and 1834 Investments Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Traded firm were Epley 7.50% preference shares due 2024, Iron Rock Insurance Company Limited, and Jamaica Stock Exchange. JMMB Group Limited's 7.35% cumulative redeemable preference share was the volume leader with over 102 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 3.5 billion units, and Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 2 million units. In market data for oil, oil prices jumped on Monday as Western allies imposed more sanctions on Russia and blocked some Russian banks from a global payment system, actions which could cause severe disruption to its oil exports. Brent crude rose $4.16 or 4.3% to $102.09 after hitting a high of $105.07 a barrel in early trade. West Texas Intermediate crude was up $4.19 or 4.6% at $95.78 a barrel after hitting $99.10 in early trade. Russia is now facing severe disruptions to its exports of all commodities, from oils to grain, after Western nations imposed stiff sanctions on Moscow and cut off some Russian banks from the SWIFT international payment system. That's the business report inside the news on PBCJ. I'm Denida Rodney.
In regional news, we start with Guyana. Firefighters are trained to respond to fires and other emergencies, but Home Affairs Minister Ramadhin Benn says they may also be called upon to respond to emergency situations in the country's oil and gas industry. The minister says it is important that firefighters improve their skills and are trained to respond to emergencies that may occur on onshore bases or offshore Guyana.
It is important that local firefighters keep pace with the growth of Guyana's oil and gas industry to respond to any emergency situation that may arise. Minister of Home Affairs Ramadhin Benn said as the oil and gas industry continues to expand, so must the Guyana Fire Service in terms of the use of modern equipment and technology. Minister Benn was speaking at the outreach program hosted by the Fire Advisory Board on Friday at the Police Officers Training College.
The oil and gas development that is upon us, and the fact that for that development offshore, we have to have highly skilled professional fire service persons present, not only in the vessels offshore, but also in relation to the developments onshore, the lay-down yards all along these banks you see springing up every day. I'm surprised flying over, driving along to see how many new lay-down yards and bonds are being put down.
With the construction and development of several high-rise buildings in Georgetown, Minister Benn also urged the business community to ensure there are fire prevention systems in place so that they, the business community, do not suffer losses as a result of fires.
Beyond taking care of the physical assets to prevent fire, but also pay attention to the question of signing on for fire insurance and for having the necessary inspections done, which the fire service is supposed to sign off on.
Meanwhile, Fire Chief Acting Gregory Wickham implored the Fire Advisory Board to continue to lend support to the fire service. This support, he explained, can see the reduction of economic losses due to fires.
For us, one fire is too much. And I can imagine, hence, the robust fire prevention lead that we would have taken in order to combat or prevent the outbreak of fires.
The Fire Advisory Board has a responsibility to inform the ministry on the necessary improvements to be made to prevent fires and other emergencies. The outreach on Friday aimed to charter a plan, offer advice, and make recommendations to members of the public and the business community. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Esanela Pato.
In the Bahamas, one opposition member of parliament is once again calling on the government to do more to mitigate the negative impact of price hikes on residents. More from our News Bahamas.
Member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama Kwesi Thompson says that just like the rest of the country, Grand Bahama is suffering from the effects of high inflation, particularly at grocery stores, gas pumps, and now a rate increase to be implemented by the Grand Bahama Power Company. He says while he understands that inflation is caused by international factors, he is calling on the government to do more to lighten the effects on Bahamians.
One of the easiest things that they can do right now that will have an immediate effect is to simply take VAT off of the breadbasket items. That is a very simple, quick, impactful thing that the government can do now. You know, we did a disservice, unfortunately. The government did a disservice when it decreased VAT on for millionaires with properties of more than $2 million. So we gave a tax break to the rich, and then you add VAT on breadbasket items and add VAT on to medication. Well, let's reverse that.
Thompson also suggests more concessions and funding for local farmers and fishermen.
We know that when the food prices go high, Bahamians now are going to be looking at how can I buy local? How can I buy from our local fishermen? That's some of the things that we need to be focused on.
He adds that he believes the government should increase social assistance and the amount of persons who are eligible, amongst other suggestions.
They should be increasing the amount that we spend for school lunch programs and also increasing the amount of students that are eligible to get this. We should be looking at tariffs. We should be looking at customs duties. We should be looking at the fees that government charges when it comes to bringing goods into the country.
In Tobago, Fort King George came alive on Fantastic Friday as traditional carnival characters educated both locals and tourists during the Tobago Traditional Carnival Living Museum. One cultural officer hopes the event will keep the carnival spirit alive. Caracia Douglas tells us more.
Although there are no major carnival activities in Tobago, through a collaborative effort including the Tobago Performing Arts Company, and the Tobago Festivals Commission, the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation is hosting a series of educational events. On Friday, participants enjoyed a living museum where they were educated about the various traditional carnival characters. They were greeted by 2 paper dolls.
Although we are cheap, this is Carnival in a pandemic. Fix your mask and watch your distance. All the smart are the resistance.
As the tour continued, speech band performers added to the edutainment as they guided participants to meet other characters.
I is the real star girl at Carnival. Oh, let it know that then. Well, it's true. If it wasn't for me, none of this would have existed.
The notorious Midnight Robber then took over the show.
Them boys afraid me more than Delta or Omicron. After 19 is me, there will be no COVID-20.
Cultural Officer 2 in the Division of Tourism, Jesse Taylor, dubbed today Festival Friday. He said although there are no carnival activities, they sought to keep the feeling alive in Tobago.
So today we crave the indulgence of the people to really showcase the creativity, the energy, the passion through the rivalry, as you can hear, the mask making, the mask wearing, and to give them an opportunity to be able to revel in all the atmosphere that we once cherished.
The tour ended with a cultural show including calypso, extempo, stick fighting, and a pan performance. Carissa Douglas, 4TT News.
In sports, Cricket West Indies has hailed Sonny Ramadhin as one of the greatest pioneers after the legendary spinner died on Sunday at age 92. Ramadhin, an off-spinner, formed a now storied partnership with left-arm spinner Alf Valentine, which famously led West Indies to a 3-1 series win against England in 1950. The partnership became immortalized in song when Calypsonian Lord Beginner penned and sang Cricket, Lovely Cricket in tribute to that Test series victory. All told, Ramadhin played 43 tests and claimed 158 wickets at an average of almost 29 and featured in 184 first-class games, picking up 258 wickets at a shade over 20 apiece. Captain Stephanie Taylor struck a half-century, but a timid West Indies run chase saw them go down by 90 runs to Australia in their first official warm-up of the ICC Women's 50-over World Cup. Asked to chase 260 at Lincoln Green on Sunday, West Indies limped to 169 for 9 from their 50 overs. Taylor punching 66 to lead an otherwise disappointing batting effort, a week out from their opening group stage campaign against hosts New Zealand. The 45th staging of the Gibson McCook Relays was held on the weekend after a year's absence at the National Stadium. The usual all-day meet was cut to just over 4 hours duration due to the ongoing pandemic. Edwin Island dominated the girls group, while Jamaica College and St. Jago shared the honors for the boys. Here are some highlights.
John on the third leg for St. Jago. Change gives Pashana Lee Blake the baton in front. St. Jago, Heidel, Edwin Allen. 1-1, Heidel, Edwin Allen, but St. Jago come onto the scorecard with Pashana Lee Blake. It's St. Jago come through to win the third event of the Gibson McCook Relays at 45.79. The second change, slow for KC and JC on the inside. St. Jago advance a bit, but still KC is clear. It's the purples who lead the blues, and the Monk Street men are third. It's KC on the inside, JC in the blue on the inside. A battle. KC, JC. KC edge forward and take command. It's Kingston College who come through. Bailey out fast, Seville also out fast, one lane outside him. That's Seville with Bailey in hot pursuit. Those two men race right together on the first leg. Looks like Bailey gets there first. Bailey to Rashid Dwyer, the former Commonwealth 200 champion, is taking charge for Sprint Tech. Sprint Tech with a little edge in the lead. On the outside, Antonio Watson. Hughes on the third leg versus Rodney. Rodney on the inside, Sprint Tech. Hughes on the outside, Racers. They get to the exchange together. It's Demishke gets the baton from Rodney down the zone. Miguel Francis gets a jump on Demishke, and that's about it. It's Racers over Sprint Tech in the 4x100 meters, and it's 38.89 to move forward on the relay. And here comes Homewood. St. Mary High holding on. Homewood pull out into lane number 2 and come past at the end. It's Homewood who come through to win the girls' sprint medley, and they come through in 3:55.76. They've broken the meet record in the medley. Antonio Forbes. Here comes KC. San Diego Quicken. It's San Diego High School, home of the world champion Bert Cameron, who come through to win the 4x4. San Diego, KC. San Diego win 3:10.47. The fastest time of the season by San Diego High School. They won the 4x1 and close up Gibson McCook with a big win in the 4x4.
And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks so much for watching.